hello everyone. My name is Patricia. I'm a holistic intuitive practitioner, and yeah, today I'm really happy because Kim Witt from Transformed by Truth is here with me. We did the HIP course, the Holistic Intuitive Practitioner course with Jennifer Van Allen together, and yeah, really happy to have Kim with me here today because her speciality, so to say, is yeah, she comes from a religious, faith-based background. So yeah, maybe Kim, let's say hello, give you a chance to introduce yourself. So happy that you're here. Hi.
Hi, Patricia. Thank you so much. I'm just honored and excited to be here with you. And as you mentioned, my name is Kim Witt. I have I call it more of a healing ministry. It is a marketplace ministry, so it's business, but it's a passion from my heart as well. And it is called Transformed by Truth. Like you mentioned, I am also a holistic intuitive practitioner, and I'm also certified in another modality called Theo-Rapha, which sounds like a really crazy word, but it means God heals. And so that's the lens by which I come at everything. And I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Kim. And yeah, maybe let's just jump straight into it because I'm not religious overly myself. Yeah, so tell us, how do you see faith contributing to the healing process for your clients?
I think it provides a lot of hope. And I think that there's a lot of power and a lot of peace in knowing that there is not just something, but someone much greater than ourselves that hold our entire healing and entire existence in his hands. So it just provides a lot of peace and comfort.
Mm.
And also not only that there's someone bigger than us out there, but someone who loved us so much that he came and willingly gave his life so that not only could we have eternal life with him and God the Father, but also that we could be healed. He actually was tortured so that by his stripes we are healed, is what the Bible says.
Mm. Beautiful. I mean, what resonates to me for me is that I mean, you really believe this, of course, yeah, but it radiates a lot of peace and hope, as you said already.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm so excited about this conversation. I think with the humanity lacks places like this where people who are like, well, I'm not believing and you're deeply religious, so it's really beautiful. And I'm very grateful for you being so brave and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us. And yeah, so I'm really curious. What do you think people often, who are maybe not religious like me, often misunderstand about faith-based healing?
I really love this question. And I think that it's not just exclusive to people who are not religious or not faith-based, but I think that there's a lot of even people who have been Christians or faith-based believers in the past who have experienced church hurt, organized religion, where people have misrepresented Christ in the name of religion, right? They've misrepresented who Christ is, or they've made people feel like, well, you're not healed because you didn't believe enough, or you must have done something wrong. It's not about punishment at all. To me, it's about, just like gravity, for example. You don't have to believe in gravity, but if you go up to a second story building and jump out the window, you're going to fall and you're going to get injured. So to me, sickness is kind of like that. That maybe there are some laws in place from a spiritual perspective, and I'm not even saying that someone broke a spiritual law, but maybe ancestrally someone missed the mark, and then the consequences of that missing of the mark has just been passed down from generation to generation until someone took a stand and examined it and said, hey, you know what, this doesn't have to continue, we can do something about this. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yeah, maybe let's move on to the next question. What wisdom from your faith do you find yourself returning to most often in client work?
Yeah, I love this question because it's all the time, and it really speaks to the name of my business, Transformed by Truth. It's the Bible verse that as a man thinketh, or woman thinketh in her heart, in his or her heart, so is he. In other words, the things that you think about yourself, that you believe about yourself, they will manifest in your life, either positive or negatively. And science is proving that. There is, according to the Heart Math Institute, there are over 40,000 neurons in your heart. So you've got brain cells actually in your heart. So I just love how science is catching up with biblical truth and foundational.
Beautiful. And now let's move to the other extreme. Have you ever had your own faith shaken, and how did that shape your that experience? How did that shape your practice?
Yeah. Um, so as far as having my faith shaken to the point of like questioning if God exists, I've never experienced that, but I have experienced, all right, I know God exists. I know he's capable of healing me or helping me with XYZ situation, but I don't know if he will. And ultimately what I realized, and it's tied back to our previous question, is that it was really my limiting beliefs about, am I good enough for him to intervene in whatever situation I was going through? A specific example of that, and it's really kind of part of my story, what has ultimately led me to have the business that I have now and pursue the holistic intuitive practitioner training. A couple of years ago, I had, and this sounds so silly, but it speaks so powerfully to the power of our mind. I had a sleep study. It was an overnight in-lab sleep study to see if I had sleep apnea. There were a variety of factors that were involved, but ultimately, for time's sake, it just pulled up a lot of trauma triggers for me. I felt alone. I felt abandoned. I couldn't sleep. I had all these wires over me. And it was the last day I had insurance. So then there was that pressure to perform. So it was really a perfect storm. And ultimately, it really dysregulated my nervous system. And it sounds insane, but I ended up with post-traumatic stress disorder. So here I am walking into wanting to do a holistic intuitive practitioner, most of which is dealing with regulating your nervous system. And then I believe that the Lord allowed me to walk through this experience first so that I could understand from a firsthand perspective what that looks like, what it feels like, and how to walk out of it. So rather than speaking just from here, I got to speak from my heart about it. And to the point of, shaking my faith, etc., ultimately what God had to walk me through for months and months and months at the beginning wasn't about, you did something bad, Kim. It was the Bible verse, I have loved you with an everlasting love. So for me, I had such a deeply ingrained belief that I had to earn my worth. I had to perform to, be worthy of existing. I mean, at its deepest level, I didn't think that here, right? But it was a script running in the background of my mind and in my heart. And so he had to skillfully undo all of those lies so that then he could rebuild me back up into the truth. And so again, tying that into transformed by truth.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your experience. I can imagine that this was a hard path to walk back then.
Yes.
Yeah. And then yeah, and this is where the beauty of HIP comes in, right? You suddenly have a community and also the words yeah, to unravel that story of what had happened, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And just a shout out to the other graduates from the HIP. So many of the ladies in that class, in that cohort have, worked on me through helping me through some of that stuff. And so really, I would recommend any of the practitioners that went through that course. Fantastic.
100%, 100%. Yeah, I hope we see more of them here in those interviews. Yeah, but let's go back to our faith-based interview today.
Yes.
If someone doesn't resonate with faith or religion, what could they still take away from your approach?
Yeah. Well, I think that science is actually now proving a lot of the concepts from the Bible as scientifically provable fact. And so I think that there's a number of things. So first and foremost, from a biblical perspective, there's a scripture that says the power of life and death is in the tongue. So the statement, I am, anything that you attach to I am is an identity statement. And so you are literally programming your mind, body, and spirit to live out and manifest whatever you say that you are. So if you're speaking, I'm sick and tired, or I'm tired, or I'm sick, anything like that. That's a command. Every single cell in your body is listening to what you're saying. And again, that's not me speaking from a biblical lens. That's me speaking from a scientific neuroscience lens. So that's one thing. Another thing is the concept of a Sabbath rest. So one day a week, unplug, get out in nature, connect with community. Don't work. It's good for your psychological health. It's good for your physical health and well-being. And so those are just a couple of things that can absolutely be taken away from the faith-based perspective without having to believe in faith or the Bible-based concept at all.
Yeah, and it's also like you don't convert people, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
your approach. I mean, in the few sessions we had, and I also had I mean, it's also, yeah, there are several people in our class who I've worked with, including our instructor Jennifer, who are deeply religious, right? It's just for me, it always felt like, well, they don't want to convert me to anything, but it helps to it gives a nice language, if that makes sense. It gives images, especially for that my subconscious brain understand, and it speaks a language I can resonate with, even though I'm not religious. Does that make sense?
Yes. Absolutely. And I love that you brought that up, because you said it perfectly. It's not my job to convert anybody. I love that I get to partner, in my perspective, with the Lord to help people heal. I believe that he came here to heal, and I'm excited that I get to help people heal too. Again, I'm not doing the healing, because we don't treat, heal, prescribe, or diagnose, right?
Yeah.
But to help people in their healing journey is super exciting. And that's what lights me up.
I had one other comment, but maybe it slipped my mind, but maybe it comes back later. Or does it right now? Sometimes, yeah. No, doesn't want to come back. Sorry. Yeah. But maybe to move on with our questions, is there something else you wish people understood about healing and faith?
Yeah, I do. In the day and age that we live, it's really easy, especially for, I think, Christians, to hear about like energy work or some of the stuff that we've talked about and that we've learned through our certifications, and think, oh, that's just woo woo. That's just out there. Or even worse, to think that it's spiritually unsafe, or even as far as demonic. Now, what I would say is, yes, everyone has to use discernment with whatever modality for, treatment or healing or whatever that they seek out.
Yeah.
But from a Christian perspective, even the Bible talks about, when it talks about how Jesus healed, he healed by laying on of hands. And specifically, I'm thinking of, there's a story where he healed a centurion's servant from afar, just with speech. And the Bible also says that we will do the things that Jesus did, and greater than what he did. And so when we talk about energy healing or energy work, it's really science. Again, quantum physics is starting to unravel some of those laws of the universe. Going back to our gravity example earlier, you don't have to believe in gravity to get hurt if you step off of a roof of a building, right? Same kind of thing with quantum entanglement and the types of interactions that our physical and subtle bodies are having. You and I are entangled right now just because of this conversation. It's like cell phone towers. It's my cell phone ringing your cell phone, and we're able to have this conversation. So I guess I would just encourage people to not, especially Christians, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's some validity to this. It's scientifically proven, and it's not just woo, woo, woo.
Yeah. Or some new age stuff.
Exactly. And like with everything, there has to be discernment and wisdom. But it's worth investigating, and it's worth having the conversation with, as for now, right now, I guess I'm speaking more to Christians. So for Christians who are curious or think that this is just out there and not okay, reach out to me. Let's have a conversation, because it's scripturally proven, it's scientifically proven, and I would love to have that conversation rather than someone just dismiss something that could be helpful for them.
Yeah, because now I remember what I wanted to say earlier. Having I mean, I had multiple sessions with you, right? And
Yeah.
I found it it made me feel very safe and welcomed because I know that you love to start and end your sessions with prayer. And
Mhm.
even as a non-religious person, I was able to be like, well, okay, let's just listen what she has to say, and it makes you feel very welcome. It sets such a beautiful space, this prayer element you're having, right? Of speaking out loud your intention.
Thank you for that. I love that feedback, and that's always my heart, and that's always my intent. My niche, maybe, if you will, is more towards Christians. I'm not going to turn anyone away. And if someone feels like um, my energy or my persona calls to them, then absolutely reach out and let's get something scheduled. Because I'm not going to limit anything. If you're being called to work with me, then I say there's a reason.
Maybe one last question, Kim. If you could distill your work down to one guiding principle or prayer for humanity, what would it be?
Mm. That's such a beautiful question. So thoughtful. I would say that it really is encapsulated in two biblical scriptures, and it's really the foundation for my business, Transformed by Truth. It is two scriptures. Be renewed by the trans or be excuse me, be transformed by the renewing of your mind, and you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
Mm.
And that truth, oh, I just got goosebumps when I said that, because it's not just about the truth of who God is. It's the truth about who you are, whether that's from a truth in who you are in God perspective, or if it's a truth of, hey, you have this dis-ease in the body that you've been experiencing. And the truth might be it really has to do with an emotion that you haven't properly processed, or maybe a brain pattern that you learned survival when you were 0 to 7 and you just haven't learned better tools yet, so that your subconscious can stop replaying that outdated pattern. So yeah,
Yeah.
that would be it.
Yeah, bring people closer back to their I am, what you mentioned earlier.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Wonderful, Kim. Is there maybe anything else you would like to add? Did we miss anything out? Would you want to clarify a point?
Oh, you asked amazing questions, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity. Transparently, I felt really clunky trying to explain a concrete example of like generational things expressing generationally. So
I have a good example of that in an intergenerational um,
yes.
thing because at one point during our HIP course, Jennifer, our instructor, Jennifer Van Allen, was working on me because I had that weird thing and I don't even know where it came from. It was certainly nothing my parents or my environment ingrained in me, but it was something, actually, it might have a religious background because the first 18 years of my life, I was raised Catholic, very
Okay.
conservative, Southern German. You go to church every Sunday, and there's the priest telling you how guilty you are. I
Yeah.
know from a different conversation, that's also something you were working
Mm.
through, right?
Yes.
So as soon as I was reached a certain age where I could make decisions on my own, I went to you have to go to the mayor actually in Germany, and then a notary comes and reads out loud something that herewith you are not part of the Catholic Church anymore. Right. So as soon as I was legally able to do this, I went up there to the mayor's office and was like, I'm signing off of this thing. But anyway, being raised Catholic, this was something. Um, it turned out in the end, Jennifer uncovered that it was actually a thing that went 3 generations down.
Mm.
So did I? Sorry, this is now all over the place. But I had that thing of self-loathing, and I had no
Yeah.
idea where it came from. And
Yes.
bridging the thing to the religious thing, in my mind, I was like, oh, maybe this came up from my Catholic upbringing because we were always told how guilty we are, right?
Yes.
And all these poor people who are suffering and so on, and we have it so good, don't complain. Other people are suffering. All life is suffering, and this for me, and I thought I connected the dots with like, well, this was probably my religious upbringing, that I'm self-loathing myself. Others have it much worse than me, and I'm not worthy to have that great
Mhm.
experience. And yeah, but actually, Jennifer was able to unravel the story in a different way. She was like, no, no, no. This goes back to 3 generations before you, that someone had that strong belief that they can only they can only deserve good things when others have it better than themselves.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
that.
And
Mhm.
this got passed down the generations to self-loathing. You don't deserve good. You need to suffer in a weird way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So with the method we learned in HIP, she was able to break that cycle. And she also spoke to my subconscious mind with her Christian lens. So she was
Mhm.
like, how and it was not an easy session, because she was like, how do you dare to think you can do God's work? This is
Mm.
God's work you want to do. It's God's work to decide what story people have to go through. You are
Mm.
allowed to thrive.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Well, and I appreciate you sharing that example because it also helps me to do a little bit more add on to an example and explaining, because earlier we were talking about how it shows up in the DNA, but really it can also show up just within brain patterns because of the way that you were taught. Let's say great great grandma starts talking about, well, you have to do things this way, or you're not worthy, or how dare you think that you're worth anything, unless anybody else has got their needs met. And so then that person learns that and then passes that on. So it can be both within the DNA, but also just lived out and acted out to where it's learned patterns and behavior in addition to the subconscious patterns and behavior. So it
Yeah.
can show up in lots of different ways.
Yeah, and probably, I don't even think that that great 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 grandparent was a bad person or didn't try
Right.
to do any harm. Sometimes it's just like, um, I don't know, if you have 3 kids and the youngest one came maybe 7 years later than the others. I mean,
Yeah.
naturally, everybody will baby that little one. It will be like, oh, you're
Yes.
too small for this. You don't have to do that yet. You're too cute. You can't do that yet. You're too small to do the dishes, or you can't jump down that tree or whatever. It's those things also where you're like, it doesn't have to be a traumatic experience or a parent who wants to do harm. It can be also those little things that
Yeah.
create the survival resource pattern in you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a great little story that I don't know, seen or read somewhere where like somebody bakes a loaf of bread and they always cut the end of it off, and they always do it and they always do it. And then one day, the daughter says, well, mom, how come you always do that? Well, and finally she says, oh, well, it's because my mom always did it. Well, they go back and ask the grandma, and oh, it's because I didn't have a loaf pan big enough to fit the end of that end. So it was just perpetuated, right? No reason.
Yeah.
It's a good conversation. I'm
It's
really
a
glad
good
that you have that.
conversation. And I know that the two of us, we can go on and on about these things, right? Yeah. No, but thank you so much for sharing this. I learned a lot. I mean, yeah, just learned a little bit more about you, of course, as well. So that was really nice. I enjoyed that a lot, to get to know you a little bit better, and also, yeah, how a modern Christian thrives in this world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
has been my pleasure. And I always love our conversations, and I love you as a person and a sister in our HIP class. And so I just really appreciate our time together here today.
Yeah, and you also sent me a link where we can send people to in case they want to connect with you, learn more about you. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and then I'm looking forward to our next conversation. Because
Perfect. Sounds
maybe we
good.
can do a spoiler alert because Kim and I, we let's see how far we get. At least in my mind, we will meet monthly and do a little bit of a business update, where we are, what we accomplished, because we're yeah new entrepreneurs now, right? We're both
Yeah.
just starting out, so it's a little bit of accountability, a little bit of sharing what we're doing, where we're at, and yeah, let's see.
And a whole lot of fun. Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kim. Thank you. That
Thank
was
you,
fun.
Patricia. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later.